What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and bringing a little nugget to add to the Soul Tribe archive. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Jupiter in Aquarius in the 11th house. And this is a pretty dope placement, I think, for Big Papa. So when you talk about Jupiter, the nature of Jupiter is to, Jupiter brings in this sense of love and desire. There's also this sense of abundance, of course, large gifts, all the relief from bondage and all bad things. There's this sense of faith and trust with Jupiter, inheritances, alliances, and in unions with great people. Big Papa gives. And I mean, Jupiter is the greater benefic. So that's another thing. And this is especially beneficial if you have a day chart. So that's the benefic that you really want to work with. That's going to be wherever Jupiter is, that's going to be in a day chart the most beneficial area. Now, when you talk about Aquarius, they are traditionally ruled by Saturn, and they are the fixed air sign, and they're active or young in nature. And when you think about Aquarius, I like to think of them as like the visionaries, the ones where Saturn is creating the boundaries. Aquarius can see outside of that, to see towards even past time in a sense. They're the ones that I find that you could be, because they have such a focused mind, there's a strong mental, a cerebral energy there. And I like to think of them as like, if you can hold it in your head, you can hold it in your hand with Aquarius. The ones that are going to lay out the blueprints and really kind of see and bring the people, together in order to build this, really kind of big picture thing. So it's really dope when you're working with Aquarius energy. And then when you are dealing with the 11th house, this is the house of good spirits. So who doesn't love that? And it's one of these succeedant houses. And some of the themes that this house is going to cover are going to deal with like friends, groups, alliances, your hopes, patrons, benefactors, things along those lines. So when you're working with this placement, a few things to consider. One, you would have an Aries rising by whole sign, and you're going to want to look to Saturn, because Saturn's going to import the themes of this house and of the 10th house, which deals with like superiors, your reputation, your ambitions, your public life, any career advancements, things of that nature. Is going to import both of those themes to wherever Saturn's at. And then Big Papa is going to import the themes of the 9th house, which deal with like, especially like foreign travel, any sort of like foreign places or like foreign people, education, spirituality, beliefs, politics, things along those lines. And then the 12th house, which deals with like loss, especially like sickness, but like kind of chronic illnesses, enemies, confinement, or like isolation, sorrows, tribulations, things like that. It's going to import those to this house here. So one thing that I would talk about with this placement, especially considering that Jupiter kind of rules that 12th house, when you find yourself maybe going through those kind of tough times, because everyone goes through those, so the 8th house, 12th house, the 6th house themes, having a place where, just thinking about the 9th house, a great group I would think is like, whether being a part of some sort of like spiritual group, whether that be going to like going to church, or going to a synagogue, or maybe going on some sort of like, there's this group that I get emails from I think it's the first or last Sunday of each month, and they host these meditations online, and they do them through Zoom. And so even something like that, being something where there's this sense of camaraderie, there's this, the real kind of strong connect. There's power in like that sort of collective consciousness, and when you're bringing beliefs that are supporting you, and really that are trying to raise you, or kind of raise you up there. I think that would be a really kind of lovely manifestation of that. I can see that as one way for that Jupiter may give in that regard. I would think even too, maybe even being involved in some sort of like healthcare, possibly just thinking with that 12th house, maybe you happen to work in like a hospital or something like that. That could be another way that sort of areas, and maybe that happens to deal, maybe it's like maybe it's like it could be like maybe like the Doctors Without Borders, possibly something like that. That always seems to be like a good go-to. But something where maybe you're working in like foreign lands, maybe foreign hospitals, things like that. But I think even just with this placement, just making sure that you do have a diverse group of friends. I think that would be somewhere people that can introduce you to different beliefs and things, and to give you different perspectives to kind of ponder on when you're in, kind of meditate on when you're in, that kind of isolation, and you have some time to just kind of be with yourself and kind of be in the body and just kind of reflect on that. But I think that that would be one where, yeah, and just like, traveling to different places, I think that that would be an excellent place. Schedule some times, schedule some sabbaticals, go on a backpacking trip somewhere, go camping somewhere, go on a retreat. I think that would be actually really kind of beneficial thing for this kind of placement as well. But I could just see Big Papa really just bringing in good friendships. I'm just thinking with how Aquarius being one of the fixed signs, that usually the fixed energies, that's a real strong loyalty with that. And again, who knows, maybe it might be from someone who's from another country from yours. That could be, might be on the cards there. But like having those kind of good groups and friends, especially when, maybe kind of going through those kind of tough times there. The 12th house can also deal with kind of like enemies and things. So this could help you even maybe kind of like, again, find people to, especially if you're going through like different challenges and things, to have those alliances, those groups, those unions, and things like that. So, I think that's another really neat kind of manifestation there. I can see even too, this could be something like working in like education, possibly maybe you're teaching in a foreign country, that could be something there, maybe having to teach language or whatever it is that you happen to be getting involved in. I can see education, that could be something that can come up in the mix there. But, and I think too, make sure to, especially when we're thinking about, like, if you have those moments where you're just thinking about what is next, how do I want to expand? How do I want to grow? I really do think having those, going into areas that are unfamiliar to you, could really help spark inspiration. I think that could be something really neat that this Jupiter placement could bring there. Let me see, is there anything else that I can think of with this one? And maybe too, it might be that even like friends could even, maybe through connecting with different people from things, they are able to help, just have you travel to different places. Maybe you have a friend who has a home somewhere and they're like, hey, come, let's go travel here. Maybe someone who happens to work as like a pilot and they happen to get like, whatever that might look like. So, but these would be just like some sort of like basic themes that I would talk about with someone with this placement. You definitely need the whole chart to get an idea of how this may be working there and how Jupiter may be giving. So, but if that's something where if you have this placement or know someone who's working with this placement, down in the comment section, let us know how this showed up for you. I would love to hear how this has manifested. It's always really neat to hear the stories behind that and to see how they come to life. And if that's something where if you want to explore if you have this placement, or just explore your natal chart more to see what is the most positive and what is the most challenging planet for you, or what are some transits that are going to be more kind of on the forefront for you, or if you want to do any sort of elections or anything so along those lines, down in the description box is a link to book a consultation with me. So definitely check that out. And if you have any questions, I have my email down there as well, so feel free to reach out. And then there are a couple links down in the description box as well. One is for the Celestial News. Right now it's weekly, but it's going to turn into monthly once we get into October. But that talks about the sun and the other classical planets, where they're transiting, what signs are going to be most affected, and how to most practically work with those energies. And then the other one is the Celestial News Weekly, no, I just said that. The other one is Lunar Shenanigans, with a little bit of Justin shenanigans. But it talks about the astrology of the moon, what sign it's in, what phase it's in, when it happens to go void of course, and just to get a feel for the energies of the week while, as the moon is having these conversations with the different celestial bodies. So that's all available for you there. But until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep raising that vibration through the roof. And I will catch you on the next one. Later.